Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Welcome to Hieros Gamos Radio, broadcasting out of the Lower Triangle, Tasmania, the descending tongue of grace, adrift in the freezing waters of Mem between mainland Australia and Antarctica, howling like the hanged man with a brutal hangover. Hieros Gamos Radio is the sacred wedding of matter and spirit, life and art, Thelema and Tao. We call upon the thinkers and feelers and knowers of the new aeon. Our guest is a pioneering burlesque artist who's taken the art form to never before charted diabolical places. She's synthesized doom metal and meditation, and also holds the office of Initiation Secretary General of the Australian OTO Grand Lodge. She is that magnificent beast of a woman, KerryX. Well, hello and welcome.
Hello, thank you. 93.
Ah, yes, definitely 93. Well, tell us about your early life and your first encounter with Thelema.
My early life was a bit of a mixed bag. I grew up in a fairly Catholic family. My grandmother rediscovered religion on becoming ill, as a lot of people do. So I kind of grew up with the Catholic family. I went to a Catholic all-girls school for 7 years, I think. But I was always very interested in religions and spirituality and that sort of stuff. At one stage in my youth, I thought I might be a nun. But I think that was just my early callings to spirituality. So through the Catholic girls' school, we did actually study religion. So I had a chance to study most of the common religions, and then in my own time, I guess I started expanding on that. I went through the typical teenage Gothic Satan worshipping bullcrap. I guess my naughty little trips to the library to look up books on Satanism bore fruit, and I found books on the occult and started kind of getting interested. Then fast forward to a few years later, I actually met a Thelemite. He was playing in a band I went on tour with. So we got talking, and that was kind of my foot in the door to the OTO.
So is it true that you moved from Tasmania to join the order?
You could say that, yes. It was definitely one of the major deciding factors. I think I was just having a bit of a change with my life, and I had been in contact with the Victorian local body. Mm-hmm. So I'd teed up an initiation date to come to Melbourne and kind of crack the shits with what I was doing, and ended up just moving to Melbourne as well. And I haven't been back yet.
Not yet.
A 6-month trip that then got extended to maybe I'll stay for a year, and it's been 12 years now.
Wow, 12 years. So what's the main thing that being a member of the OTO has afforded you?
Afforded me. I guess the opportunity to meet like-minded individuals worldwide, mainly Australia-wide. I've travelled quite a bit with OTO and met lots of other local bodies and lots of brethren, but I've also met international members as well. I went to a Gnostic Mass in Sweden, which was pretty cool. So yeah, it's just been, I guess, it really opens up a fraternity worldwide to you. So, no matter where you are, you can kind of touch base with an OTO local body, and if you want to, meet up with people. Not to mention some, amazing friendships, amazing collaborations, a lot of work. But yeah, just it's afforded me the ability to experience the order and my life within it.
And how does that Thelema and magick manifest in your life? How do you live together with, you know, your so-called regular life and your magical life?
It's very much a part of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I almost don't separate it at all. I separate it in that, you know, sometimes I get home and I put on my ISG hat and log in and do that sort of work. But in general, being a Thelemite for me is 24/7. Like my work and my studies in the order shape who I am. So, you know, everything I do, I look at from the point of view as a practicing Thelemite. I'm not overly secretive about my involvement in the order. I don't advertise it, but most people know I'm interested in the occult and involved in it somehow. So, yeah, it pretty much touches on all aspects of my life, even my muggle job. It would be too hard to figure out that I'm into some kooky shit there. So, yeah, basically the way I approach everything is based on, you know, my journey through life and in the order.
How do you find that journey? Would you say it's a difficult journey?
Yes.
Yeah.
They don't call it the great work for nothing. If it was all sunshine and lollipops, then it wouldn't be worth doing. So it has its challenges, but anything worth doing does. And when you're trying to learn and grow, that comes with, you know, its fair share of sorrow and heartache, as well as joy and passion and love. So it's a constant work of learning and growing and, you know, trying to change the world around you.
When did you discover burlesque?
It probably all started, like my dance career started not long after I moved to Melbourne. So my first share house in Melbourne was a 7-person share house in Fitzroy, and I lived opposite a well-known belly dance studio. So I used to sit in my lounge room listening to like Middle Eastern music and drums and all of the girls' coin belts, and I kind of just thought, I reckon I'll give that a go. So I conned my sister into coming to one class with me, and she did one class, and 12 years later, I still go to the same teacher. That was when I discovered my passion for dance. I guess burlesque came maybe a couple of years later. Maybe 1 or 2 years later, I kind of discovered the character work and costumery of burlesque and was really drawn to that. So my dance style is definitely belly dance, or my training is belly dance. But I've really embraced kind of the burlesque package, as in not only am I dancing, but I'm creating characters and storylines and little worlds.
Yeah. So like dance theatre in a sense.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, I guess my early life, my art came out in sculpture. So I studied fine arts at University of Tasmania, and I majored in sculpture. However, when I moved to Melbourne, I found that, like, space-wise, it was very difficult to maintain a workshop in a studio. So I guess dance slowly overtook as the way I manifest artwork. So it's kind of become physical sculptures, physical moving sculptures. If I want to be that wanky.
No, that makes sense. You are the sculpture, I guess.
Yeah.
So why do you think it's such a fertile ground for expression as a woman? That's
burlesque typically champions womanhood. You know, it's a space where you can express who you are, what you look like, and it's a fairly safe space to do that. There's not so much judgment, because the way you're presenting your product or yourself or your performance, you know, people are already there to be supportive. No one really goes to see dancers thinking, you know, I'm going to be an arsehole and cut this person down. So it's like, for all of its bitchiness, which any community has, it's a very supportive community and a very creative community. And for me personally, the character work is really, really what draws me to it. I mean, as I said, my training is all belly dance, but, you know, there's a reason I perform mainly as a burlesque performer opposed to a belly dancer. I guess burlesque for me was the perfect way to meld, you know, my passion for art and storytelling and magic into a physical manifestation. I generally, when I'm creating an act, you know, study the character I want to do. I'll go into, like, you know, what colours are suitable, what scents, what, you know, what feelings, what song is going to suit. So for me, it's a way of creating, you know, aspects of my personality and archetypes. So, you know, I can either channel an aspect of myself, or I can channel an archetype, or I can create a whole storyline. It's just it's a very complete package for me.
Mm-hmm. This would be a good time to mention brutalities, if that's how I pronounce that correctly.
Sure.
Yeah, could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so basically, a year and a bit ago, I was given the opportunity to start teaching at a studio in Melbourne. So I kind of sat down and thought about what I wanted to do. I specifically didn't want to go down the path of, you know, teaching your typical classic burlesque class. One, there's enough of them as it is. Two, I don't truly believe you can teach burlesque, being that, you know, burlesque is it's a concept. It's all sorts of different things. So, you know, you can have a comedian be a burlesque performer. You can have musical theatre. You can have ballet. Like, I do belly dance. So it's kind of hard to be like, this is what burlesque is and I'm going to teach it. So I decided to kind of put together two things I like. So, you know, heavy music, like metal music, and burlesque, but as opposed to teaching burlesque moves, I was more interested in teaching basic dance moves and trying to build and teach confidence. So, you know, my favorite motto for class was always, you know, fake it till you make it, and also that confidence is a muscle, so the more we practice using it, the stronger it gets. So basically I was just trying to create an alternative space for women who wanted to, you know, be a bit sassy, work on their confidence, and not be in a room full of opera-length gloves listening to 50s music that, you know, you're not into. So, yeah, it's an ongoing project to try and get women in touch with their sensuality. Women and men. I'm happy to teach both. So,
do you get many men at all?
Currently, I've only run my classes from a women's only gym, so no. However, you know, I'd be happy to open it up. Sadly, my day job has taken up a lot of my time lately, and I haven't really been teaching much. But hopefully, with the new year, as things settle down, I'll start writing more classes and broadening the horizons. So I'd like to see some gents come along.
Yeah, me too, I think, actually. It would be great to
Yeah.
Yeah. So meditation and doom metal are not things that often appear in the same sentence. Tell us about deep noir meditation.
See, I don't know why, because doom metal for me is so relaxing and meditative. So yeah, that was another, the studio I was teaching at, like, had said, oh yeah, we're looking for like meditation classes. And I was like, shit, yeah, let's do it. Like, I do it with doom metal, so let's do that. And they were keen. So we created Deep Noir. So it's basically a guided meditation accompanied by a theme album. So I usually pick a pretty trancey doom album. Look, I can meditate to doom with extreme vocals, but I usually try and pick something without too much vocal work so it doesn't distract people. But I just find, like, your ambient drone doom usually embraces the kind of drone and rhythm really suitable to deep breathing and relaxing the body. And also, not everyone's into your hippie and your crap, so just offering something different to, people to help improve their personal practice or have some time out or just listen to a sick album.
Listen to a sick album. Well, I guess, doom metal, opposed to, other forms of metal being a lot slower and low end as well. I guess it makes sense for that meditative way. Maybe I'll give it a go.
I guess I first discovered it because when I used to tour with bands a long time ago, I'd often put doom metal on to sleep on, like, in the car or on the plane or something, because it's loud enough to drown out everyone else, but it is drony and relaxing. So I guess that's when I first discovered that it was really suitable for meditation.
It seems that a lot of art is externalized, I guess you're talking about sculpture. You use your body to make art. Can you talk about this more in the body and what that means to you, if you could elaborate?
Yeah, definitely. Well, like I mentioned, I used to work as a sculptor, so I've always been interested in objects and shapes. But I've also always really loved music. However, I discovered pretty early on that I was a shitful musician. So I think discovering dance was a way I could be involved in music and create music, kind of in that the dancer is the physical embodiment of music. So I really like creating a visual to accompany music as well as my storyline that I've created or my concept. So it's a very, fleshy, visceral way of exploring themes. Also, I'm probably slightly vain, so I do like performing. I do like being in front of a crowd, which is always weird because I'm generally pretty down on humanity. But yeah, it's a calling. I miss the stage when I haven't performed for a while. So I guess it was, the physicality of dance was the perfect mesh for me between study, art, and, manifestation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If we get back to more OTO related topics, can you tell us about the Initiation Secretary General and how that came about, what the job entails, and the challenges that's associated with it?
Yeah, so my office portfolio generally falls under the Grand Secretary General. So a few years ago, when we had a new officer take over Grand Secretary General, she asked me if I would be interested in fulfilling the Initiation Secretary role, which I was. I've always been a bit of a freak for filing. So yeah, I took it on board a couple of years ago. I think there's been a few people fill the post prior to me, so I inherited many years worth of filing and pledge forms. So basically the role is overseeing initiations within the Australian Grand Lodge. So when a local body gets a candidate, they fill out their pledge form and that gets sent to me. So I physically hold all of the pledge forms. So it's a bit of a safekeeping role. I oversee and take care of, generations worth of people's magical documents. So Basically, it's a glorified secretary role. I oversee filing, I make sure procedure is followed, I answer questions, I keep records. If down the track anyone wants to know something about a member or their own history, I can look it up for them. But I guess also going forward, I would like to kind of expand the role and get it more active. So I am trying to slowly get more involved with initiators. So opposed to being just like a dusty filing agent in the background, be a port of call for initiators, help them connect with where they need to be. And basically just help ensure that our initiations are benefiting the brethren. I do enjoy it. I do feel a connection with these magical documents, and I'm very honoured to be their caretaker currently. I guess my work there has enhanced my studies of Thelema and magic and our initiations by really realising that every step we take is significant. So even just filling out our pledge form is a significant magical step. So I make sure that we treat these things with the reverence they deserve, and make sure that for posterity, it's all kept in good condition so that future generations can, benefit from the work we're doing now as well.
It sounds like it's quite an important job, quite a meticulous job. I think that's what it sounds like, making sure all the files are in order. And
yes, I joke of myself as the fine-tooth comb.
I think that's what you need, isn't it? I mean, that's...
Well, my theory is we can't comprehend what little things might affect things. So I make sure everything is done to a T on our forms and in our process, because we can't know for certain, like if down the track missing one line in the pledge form or one day in the time frame, we don't know how that'll affect the candidate and their journey. So I guess in a way I feel like I'm overseeing making sure that our candidates get the absolute best experience they can out of our journey.
Compared to other kingdoms, the OTO Australia seems to embrace a lot of women in executive roles. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, look, I'm not too familiar with offices around the world, so I hadn't really realised Australia had a large number of women in executive roles. It does make sense. We are a pretty strong sisterhood down here. I think part of it is that we were the right people for the roles as well. We're a talented bunch of lasses. But also, Thelema is about equality. Every man and every woman is a star. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't have, a more equal representation of brothers and sisters in roles within the order. I think it's a very, very old school mentality to have men in positions of power, which, isn't just an OTO thing. It's pretty worldwide. So, it's just Thelema getting with the times and being ahead of the pack, and having the sisters represent and be a part of things, and using talent where talent is.
Yeah, and I think that's regardless of gender.
That's it. So there happened to be some women in executive roles. I believe we were the best people for the job at the time, regardless of what's in our pants. So
yeah. I guess if you could elaborate more about what other challenges that women would face in the OTO, and also what sort of things came up in the women's conference that was held a few years back.
think in general, problems facing women in the order are a bit of a hangover of problems women have in general, as in we're often overlooked. There's the habit for the masculine to assume that, females are weaker or we're not as intelligent. So I think it's just the typical battle for women of pushing the stereotypes that, men are more important, men are smarter, men are more book-wise, and embracing, what femininity has to offer and what women can do. So yeah, there's always the fact that you asked me about why we have women in executive roles, little things like that. It's never occurred to anyone why there's so many men in executive roles. So we face the challenge of people constantly questioning why we do things. So I guess at the women's conference, that was kind of geared at trying to get the sisters together, get everyone involved, see what everyone's up to, and create a bit of a forum so that women can feel involved. So I guess the challenges we kind of came across there is how do women get involved? How do women get respect? Basically, how do we get our brothers to see us as, an equal star deserving of our place in the solar system, which I definitely think is happening. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think it's a very old Aeon thing to have, males as, the pinnacle of power. And I think as we move forward as a society, we are, slowly embracing equality more and more, both in everyday life and in occult and magical orders. Yeah, look, I have noticed over the years that male and female magic does tend to be different. So it's kind of cool to get men and women together and collaborate and, and get some really cool funky stuff happening, opposed to, the kind of book-heavy male magic and the, women tend to be more arty and obscure in our magic. So I think we definitely have something to offer. And, like I said, working together, we can create some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, and it's about working together as well. It's good to have the masculine and the feminine.
Exactly, equality.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, there's a natural attrition of junior members in the order. In your long time in the order, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it is just a bit of a natural thing, dependent on varying trends. Like I said, the great work is work. So I think some people fall out because it's hard. It's hard to, look at yourself and how you do things and try and become a better Thelemite and a better person. So for some people, the challenges are too much. For some people, it's just not right for them. Like, a lot of people come to the order expecting something, and if it's not what they expect, then they tend to drop off. Also, it's a pretty heavy commitment, the work required, and especially going forward in the order, serving your fellow brethren, it's a lot of hard work. It can be tough. It's also very rewarding, and that's not for everyone. But also it's, it can be a local thing, so there can be trends in local bodies. Often friend groups kind of, develop and create their own cliques and stuff. So as they move and grow, they can, come and go from the order as well. I think in the past I used to find the attrition rate troubling, whereas having been in the order for so long now, I just see it as kind of natural for the man of earth bodies, because it is, it is every man and woman's journey. So where their journey takes them isn't always necessarily completely within our order, and sometimes their journey, is completely suitable for the order. So, I think it's natural to have people to come and go. Like, otherwise we'd be a bit culty if it was like, everyone must stay.
Yeah. Again, a bit reflective of wider society, and I'm sure, kind of, say you're talking about like your dance groups and things, people would come and go, for those kind of things.
And I mean, Thelema being about following your true will, people's wills are varied, and they can take on all sorts of journeys. So often people, will join and hang around for a few years, and then their journey might take them elsewhere for a couple of years, and they might not engage with the order too much, but then they'll be drawn back to the order later. So it's often needs to be looked at from a long-term perspective as well, because, as we grow and evolve as people, our involvement in the order and our journey within the order changes as well. Look, basically my life in the order has been good. Like I said, it's up and down. I often when I'm having a bad time think, God damn it, I signed up for this shit. But at the same time, I'm very passionate. I truly believe in Thelema. I truly want to help my fellow brethren, with their will as well. And I'm really grateful for the discovery of Thelema and what it's done for my life, how I've mixed it with my day-to-day life and my artwork. And I really hope my fellow brethren also, take a lot from their time in the order and with Thelema.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It was good to have you.
Oh, thank you very much. Anytime.
We hope you've enjoyed the show. None of the opinions expressed by hosts or guests reflect the policies of OTO Australia, its members or officers. This is your host, Sora Murr. Love is the law, love under will.